Paul Wesel. Let's hear it for Paul Wesel.
Hi. Okay, it's 1975, and I read a little book called Backpacking in the Holy Land. So I said, hey, I could do that. I could take my backpack. I'm an experienced backpacker. I've never been to Israel, so I want to go to Israel, backpacking in Israel. And I say to Vivian, hey, Vivian, I think I'll go backpacking in Israel, take 3 weeks off of work. She says, fine. She says, but here's 2 things I want you to do. She says, I want you first to buy a decent talit. I mean, please, the thing that you're wearing, I don't like that. She says, I'm going to give you some money. I'm going to tell you where to go. You go to Meir Sharim. You go to the best shop you can find. Buy the best talit you can find. I said, okay, I can do that. She says, and the second thing I want you to do is, she said, I want you to meet up with a friend of mine, Dov Safrai. He's the owner of the Safrai Gallery in Jerusalem, and he and I are great friends. She said, I was his part-time manager when I was a student at Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and you just say hello. Call him up, go over there, say hello, tell him I say hello, and give him a message for me. I'll give you a letter. And I said, okay, fine. So I make all the preparations. I pack 50 pounds of stuff into this big backpack. I choose the right hat to be a backpacker in Israel. I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. So I choose that. So I'm there in Israel. 2 weeks later, I'm in Israel. And I walk out of this shop where I've just bought my brand new talit, wearing a kippah, which I also just bought at that shop. And I'm walking down the street. And a guy is sitting next to me, and he's walking along next to me, and I look at him, and he's got this great big black hat on. And he's wearing a jacket that has like this silver and black stripes, and kind of like a crinkled white shirt that's coming out at the cuffs, and he's wearing pantaloons, the same material as the jacket, which is kind of like nylon or something like that. And he's got long black stockings and black slippers that look like suede, but they're kind of like scuffy at me. And he looks at me and he says, you're a Hasid. And I said, no. I said, I'm a tourist. And he said, no. He said, you're a Hasid. He said, what is your name? I said, what is my name? I don't want to give this guy my name. He's probably crazy. I said, I give him my Hebrew name. I said, my name is Amos. He said, oh, Amos, a chassid and a prophet. He says, where are you going, Amos? And I said, well, I'm going to the Safrai Art Gallery. I said, I have an appointment to meet a man there. I said, he's the owner of the gallery. His name is Dov Safrai. And he says, oh, Hashem wanted you to meet a man named Dov. And my name is Dov Potkin. I said, that's really very nice, thanks. That's great, Dov. I said, but I got to be going. I said, I got this appointment. And he says, what are you going to be doing in Israel, Amos? I said, well, I've booked this trip that I'm going on, following the footsteps of Moses. I'm going to be going to, Masada and Eilat, and I'm going to be climbing Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai. He says, you're going to be on Sinai on Shavuos. And I thought to myself, well, yeah, that's probably true. I hadn't even counted the days, but that's true. And he says, where do you come from, Amos? I said, Boston, Massachusetts. And he says, oh, then you must know the Bostoner Rebbe. I said, oh yeah, we're first best friends. I said, yeah, I'll tell him you were asking about him, but now I really gotta go. And he says, come to my house for Shabbat. I said, what? He says, come to my home for Shabbat. He says, come early. He says, go to Kabbalat Shabbat in my shul. Then you come home and you meet my family, my wife, and my children. And he said, have dinner with me on Shabbat. I said, well, I don't know, Doe. I don't know if I can really. He says, do you have plans for Shabbat? And I said, no, I don't have any plans for Shabbat. That was the idea. I wasn't going to have any plans. And he says, come to my home for Shabbat. So I meet him at his apartment. I meet him at the apartment door. He's waiting for me at the door. We go to his shul. Shul is about the size of my living room with about 95 men all standing up. They're all shuffling. It's very dark in there. It's very hot. They only have candles for lighting. And then later we walk toward his apartment. He's telling me his life story. He's a Baal Tshuva. He emigrated from Australia, married this very religious woman in Mea Shearim. He's a sofer. He says, you know what a sofer is? I said, of course, I'm a chassid. So we go into his house. We go into his house. It's an apartment. You know, it's this government, these government subsidized apartments. And his wife and his little children meet us at the door, and we go in a little tiny alcove. It's very dark in there, all of the candle lighting. And we sit at this table. Only the two of us, I notice, are seated at the place, and his wife and his two children are like in a kitchen. And his wife comes out, and she puts two plates in front of us, one in front of me and one in front of Dove. And I look at the plate, and it has a little tiny piece of chicken, and a little potato, and a little green vegetable, and I realize how poor these people really are. And I feel really very humble. They've invited me as a stranger into their house for Shabbat. 2 weeks later, I'm riding on the Southeast Expressway with Vivian back in Boston, and I'm telling her the story, and I said, I met this strange man named Dove Putkin. She said, what was his name? I said, Dove, like your friend in Jerusalem. And she says, no, what's his last name? I said, Putkin. She said, you mean like that? And she points up through the windshield. And there across the blue sky, over the skyline of Boston, is the name in skywriting, Putkin, P-A-T-K-I-N, big white letters. And I said, what is the meaning of this? What is the mystery? Well, a few days later, I learned there's a Putkin Cadillac in Boston, and this is an advertising for Putkin Cadillac. So it's all just a coincidence after all, but you know, maybe Hashem really didn't want me to meet a man named Dove, because when I get to the gallery, the doors are locked, the gallery is closed, and Dove Safrai never shows up.
It's a great story. There is something magical about what happens in Israel. It really is, in terms of relationships that people have. And being open, and that's the other thing I'm taking from this, is sort of being open to these relationships. If you just get out of your house and just start walking around, you just never know what's going to happen. Bill, do you have another song for us? A couple tunes?
Yes. Yes. Who
Wow!
got that?
Woo! Everybody start singing. Downtown. Always go downtown. Music of the traffic in the city. Blah, 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 blah. How could you... I'm looking at you, Linda. You can't forget all your troubles, forget all your cares, and go downtown, downtown. I have to say, I grew up in a Sephardic synagogue, which was Orthodox, in Seattle, and they always had a Sephardic sisterhood banquet. And they always sang that song with some kind of parody, and I swear to God, I thought it was a Sephardic song. I swear. It was like I was in college and I heard it, so I'm like, oh my God, at Brandeis, there's Sephardic Jews. Who knew?